Hello, good evening, good day, everybody. I hope you're all doing very well. And welcome to the 252nd episode of the Ask Abhijit show. Let us see who all is there on the live stream. I can see Bharat first. I can see Rashmi Rathore, Vidhi Manyar, Animish, Sanket, Samarth Tripathi, Geopolitical Dubey from Indore, Maverick Venezuela, Yash Chadav, Vinay Esman, Raj Nabanita Das, Shri Ramachandraya Namaha, I Tarun Singh Chauhan, Mr. Jam, Info King, Anand Chandak, Baba Abhijit Chavda, Abhishek, Uday Kumar, Aris Manticore, Vamshi Kalem, Shreyas Mitra, Samarth Tripathi, Daksh, Abhay Jadav, Bhargav, EEE, Rahul Dunake, AVM, Philosophic Shadow, who is a new member. Welcome, my friend. Welcome, and thank you for joining the membership. Daksh Vora, Pete, Vishnu Mohanan, Aviral Gandhi, Mr. Jam, McLavin, Namit Dusad, Nabanita Das again, Piyush Rana, Yashwant Sudhir, Kiadi the Chad, Bhalki today, Dhairya, Beast Place 247, Arka Prabha Ray, Xenomorphosis, Piyush Maurya, Karan Virk, Rahasya Gatha, Arnav Singh, Maulana Abhijit Chawda. What on earth is that? Nutan Roshan, Janavi Thinasekar, Aditya Garg, Anish Shintre, Kapalin, Nimish Gupta, Tanmoy Chakrabarti, Unknown VS Nair, Vikas PJ, Manisha Cardozo, Adnudipta Sen, Samim Drowning, Shreyas, Neha Sharma, Moria, Palden, VS Nair, Seneca, Nimish, Nikhil, Vaishnav, Vinay Esman, Vikas, Event Countdown, and so many other people. So greetings to you all, and let's get going with the questions. I'm sure you have questions. This will be a 1 hour live stream roughly. In that, I'll take as many questions as I can. So let's get going with the questions. I'll first do the super chats because those are paid, and then if there are no more super chats, we'll take the other questions as well. Jai Bhavani says, Chanakya like coup, what resistance will face today? In today's day and age, Chanakya doesn't have to do a coup. He can simply use the electoral system to come to power. So there's no need for a coup. Chanakya is not stupid. Chanakya was one of the most brilliant men who ever existed. So he will not do a coup. He will simply use the electoral system to come to power. Ayers Mandicor says, is the low Hindu birth rate a symptom of inflation? I'm not sure it's a symptom of inflation. It's a symptom of the fact that there's what is it a symptom of? Generally, that you're overworked and you don't have time for your family. That's typically what a low birth rate is a symptom of. There's too much work that you need to do in order to earn a living, and as a consequence of that, there's not enough time for family and married life, and that's why there's typically a low birth rate. And obviously not just inflation, but rising prices, and overall everything is expensive. So you could say it's inflation, because if you look at the situation 30 years ago, 40 years ago, things were not that expensive. So inflation is a factor, and there are other factors as well, right? Bhargav says, would it be better for India to have the presidential form of governance? I say this from the point of view that a particular MP seat may not remain reduced to a mere number. I am in favor of a presidential form of government, for sure. It's a much better form of government, which is more suited to a gigantic nation like India, a subcontinent-sized nation like India. The system that we have adopted is the British system, the Westminster parliamentary democracy system, which is suitable for a nation like the like the UK, a small island nation in the Atlantic Ocean. It's not suitable for a vast nation like India with a huge population. The larger your population and the larger the size of your nation, the more centralized the system has to be in order to be effective. So you need, so that's why you need a presidential form of governance would be way more beneficial and effective for a nation like India. And right now, you're rightly saying that MP seats are just reduced to numbers. You have, I don't know how many MPs in the country, and at the end of the day, what do they end up doing over a period of 5 years for their constituency? They actually act on behalf of their party, and they do whatever the party says. There's something called party discipline, right? So whatever the party says, you do it. At the end of the day, your constituency may suffer as a consequence of that. So if you have a presidential system, then the president doesn't have to worry about the coalition politics and staying in staying in power in parliament and not losing the confidence of your MPs and the voter and so on and so forth. All those issues that are such a pain to handle on a day-to-day basis. If you are the leader of the country, you have to focus on governance and leading the country, not on these matters, but that's how what we have today. So I think a presidential system form of governance is way better for India. AVM says, why are Hindus refusing to have kids? I see most of them have at most one kid and instead treat pets as the progeny, Western copycats, or medical issues. There's no medical issues. Um, yeah, many of them are influenced by the West. Many of them focus on career. Many of them focus. See, the thing is that if you want to have high standards of living, a high income, etc., you have to work really hard. And when you work really hard, it means you work overtime and so on and so forth, and then there's not much time for your family. And today, it's very expensive. Everything's very expensive. Medical treatment for kids is expensive. Education for kids, if it's especially if it's good education, it's super expensive. Lakhs of rupees per year, and so on. If you don't care about your kids, doesn't matter. You can just dump your kids anywhere on the streets, and they'll grow up on their own. So if you want to have a good upbringing for your kids, then in this day and age, it makes sense to have less kids. So it's not a medical issue, it's all these things. When you actually care about your kids, then you cannot have so many kids, because then you won't be able to give them all the same, a good upbringing, a comfortable upbringing, right? You will have to compromise. So it's better that you have less kids. That's the kind of rationale that seems to be going on. I'm not saying it should be the case, but there are lots of constraints on people, financial constraints and job constraints. I mean, there are so few jobs, high paying jobs, that if you get one, you have to stay, you have to retain that, which means you have to work really hard, doubly hard. In so many sectors in India, it's they expect you to work 12 hours a day. Overtime is just a take, it's expected. If you work just 8 hours, then you're slacking. So there's no work life balance and so on. So you go home exhausted, you just throw, hit the bed, and then wake up and start the cycle all over again. So when you have that sort of lifestyle, that sort of situation, circumstances, it's very hard for you to have multiple kids. And especially if you're living in a metropolitan city where both the husband and wife are working, how on earth will they be able to have kids? If they have kids, who's going to take care of them, right? If you bring family over, then it's going to be an additional expense for you, and maybe your family can't do that either. So all these issues are there. But if you don't care about your kids, if you just want to produce numbers, then you can have as many as you want, and they will all grow up illiterate, but it doesn't matter. So, different perspectives, I would say. Rohan Suneja says, should the AMCA be brought under the PMO? What are my views? My question is, how much can the PMO handle? Everything should be brought under the PMO. I agree that specific high value projects should certainly come under the PMO. I think the AMCA is doing reasonably well. I think the jet engine issue should be brought under the PMO. So very critical issues should come under the PMO. I think the AMCA is doing overall well. There's no delay as such. It's on track. If it goes off track for whatever reason, potentially in the future, we don't want it to happen, but if it does, then maybe it can come under the PMO's purview. Sahil says, what's the status of India's relationship with North Korea? We have diplomatic relations with North Korea. We have visits from their diplomats from time to time. We have our diplomats going there from time to time. So it's a decent relationship. It's neither significantly friendly, neither significantly unfriendly. We have relations. And we are aware of North Korea's status as a Chinese vassal. We are aware of their activities. In the past, we've had North Korean cyber groups who have tried hacking into Indian assets and so on. So we have those issues, and obviously that will happen at China's behest. So when it looks like a North Korean hack has happened, it essentially means it's come from China, that sort of thing. So I think we have reasonable relations with North Korea, but nothing special. Aryan sir, thank you so much. Has the Indian government really thrown 40 illegal Rohingyas in international waters and a few on an island? Till when can we get rid of illegal potential terrorists? And what are your views on one of Trump's ministers that India has crossed some red line of the US? Okay, has the Indian government really thrown 40 Rohingyas in international waters. I have not heard any such report, and I'm not sure where this report has come from. Uh, maybe they were disembarked from a boat near a beach, maybe 10 feet from a beach or something. So if you do that, then people can claim that you threw them into international waters or whatever, into the Bay of Bengal or something. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I don't think India will do any such thing that will be a human rights violation. India will not do that. So wherever these reports may or may not have come from, I think we have to scrutinize the source and what's the actual story. And few on an island. Well, if we have sent some illegal infiltrators to an island, well, that's okay, right? So I'm not sure if it's happened. What I'm hearing is that we are deporting Bangladeshi illegal infiltrators back to Bangladesh through the border with Bangladesh. That's what I'm hearing. Those are confirmed reports. But these reports of illegal Rohingyas in international waters and putting them on islands, I am not sure that these are that this is true news. Maybe it's fake news. I'm not sure. Not 100% convinced about this. Till when can we get rid of illegal potential terrorists? Look, we have. I imagine. It's an educated guess. So in 2014, the government had officially said we have 50 million Bangladeshis in India, illegal infiltrators. It's been more than 11 years since then. So my assessment is that maybe the number has doubled, because the borders, we know how the situation is. So maybe we have 100 million in India. 100 million, it takes time to evict 100 million people. Imagine, let's say we want to evict 100 million illegals in 10 years. Okay? 10 years. Which means that we have to deport 10 million per year. 10 million per year. So 365 days. So in 36 days, you have to deport 1 million. Okay? 1 million in let's say 30 days. So in 3 days, you have to evict 1 lakh. So every day you have to evict 33,000. That's a huge number. Very hard to achieve. So maybe it will take 10, 20 years to do this. You see how big the problem is, how massive the problem is, how the magnitude of the problem. You see how big it is? It's going to take a lot of doing to deport all the illegals. And it's not just the 100 million Bangladeshis. You have Rohingyas, you have Cookies, you have Pakistanis, you have God knows what else. India has become what like they say, a dharamshala. So yeah, it will take time. My views on Trump's minister's statement that India crossed some red line. I'm not aware of this. I haven't heard of it. Sorry. Saitija. From 1600 to 1857, many East India Company British looters like elihu Yale of Yale University went to the US. How many from USA side EIC looters businesses now? It's very hard to ascertain, unless you do a very detailed impact analysis. There is a term in the field of information technology, IT, software development. It's called impact analysis. It's something you do in software maintenance, actually. So we're going to have to do impact analysis of all the individuals who served in India as part of the looting team, and how many went to the US, and how many ended up founding businesses or universities or whatever. I'm not sure. The one that I know of is elihu Yale that I spoke about a few years ago. And then the news seems to have spread. But there could be lots. It's possible. But I haven't gone and done the impact analysis research, so can't say about how many more there could be. I'm sure there are lots more. Feminist Slayer says, what's the mystery of Bermuda Triangle alien supernatural? Well, allegedly this region called the Bermuda Triangle, let's put that on the screen, because we should have a map out here. Just give me a second. I'll have to crack open my map. Give me a second and I'll show you where this place is. So the Bermuda Triangle, where is it? It's in the region of Bermuda in the Atlantic Ocean. So let's go westwards from India. Where is Bermuda? So let's just search for it. Bermuda Triangle. It's a small patch of land, patch of ocean. Okay, in the Caribbean region, more or less, east of the Caribbean region, which is called the Bermuda Triangle. And what's the mystery? It is claimed that some supernatural events happen over there, and there are interdimensional wormholes. God knows what else you have over there. But the fact is that if you do a statistical analysis of how many ships and planes have disappeared there, it's nothing statistically different from any other major, near land part of the world. So it is said that there is some kind of supernatural activity, or what they call paranormal activity that happens there, but I have seen no evidence of that. Supernatural stuff. Um, Sergeant Skylan says, "Why is there no Rafale source code deal?" We have, I don't know. Uh, so look, everything has a price. Everything in the world has a price. At least the French are not, as far as I know, there's no hidden backdoors or kill switches in the Rafale. The source code, if you want it, maybe it'll cost a few billion more. I don't know what the deal is, but everything in the world has a price, and this is not, a family relationship. This is a trade relationship. So, if you want a deal, maybe we'll have to pay more for it. That's just how it goes in the world. Geopolitical Dubey says, will Russia allow India to sell the Brahmos to the Middle East? Well, it depends. Case by case basis, we have to see. Let's say we want to sell the Brahmos to Saudi Arabia, hypothetically, completely fictional situation. Let's say we want to sell it to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a major US partner. Will Russia allow us to do it? They will say, no, sorry. Okay. Let's say we want to sell it to for example, Yemen. Well, that will be a big red line for the US, so we'll not do that either. So it depends. Overall, in the Middle East, most of the nations are US allies. And if you sell a weapons system to a US ally, it may end up in the hands of the US. The US is just too powerful. They'll arm twist that ally into giving up one or two systems for study. So it's very risky for Russia to allow the Brahmos to end up in the hands of a Middle Eastern nation. So most likely the Russians will say, please don't do that. It's kind of a veto. And we have agreed to a Russian veto on the Brahmos. So it's an understanding that we have with Russia. Ayers Manticore says, do you think warp engines are a much better alternative for FTL? What's FTL? It helps if you... See, I've got a very small brain. I don't understand these things. FTL, what's FTL? Faster than light. Faster than light. Okay. Do you think warp engines are a much better alternative for FTL? But all hypothetical warp engines require some kind of exotic matter. Is it doable? This is all science fiction as of today. There's something called the Alcubierre drive, which is kind of a warp drive, which kind of does work within the constraints of Einstein's field equations of general relativity. I have not studied it. I haven't studied every single piece of research. Does it require some kind of exotic matter? Maybe it does. In order to warp space-time to that extent, maybe it does need some kind of exotic matter or some kind of stupendously powerful gravitational field, perhaps. How do you do it? Is it doable? Within the constraints of presently known technology? Absolutely impossible. Theoretically, according to the laws of physics, it's possible. But for that, you will need technology that we simply can't imagine today, right? For example, wormholes can exist according to Einstein's equations. Okay, but to keep a wormhole open, its neck open, you need exotic material, exotic matter, either negative mass matter or a cosmic string, which is the topological defect in the fabric of space-time itself. So if these things exist, then it's doable. But do they exist? We've never seen it. But they can theoretically exist. So my point is, this is all science fiction at this point in time. If aliens exist and they have IQ of 2000 or something, they may be able to do it. And then their technology will feel like magic to us. Rahul Lakshmanan says, do you think modern India has a separation between government and civil society which did not exist in ancient Bharat? Isn't greater synergy between society and government better, and will we ever get there again? There is a separation between government and civil society. It did not exist in ancient Bharat. Absolutely 100% true. We have adopted the Western system. We have wholeheartedly swallowed the Western system, which is not suitable for a civilization like India. But we have accepted it. I mean, we have been made to accept it, right? In 1947, power was transferred by the British to a bunch of people who did exactly what the British wanted. And India has remained colonized. When decolonization happens, there will no longer be the separation between government and civil society or government and society. And the government will no longer say that we will stay away from religion and culture. our indigenous religion and culture. That's not how it works. So there is the separation, and it's very unfortunate. In the old days, the kings and emperors were the guardians of dharma, and the Constitution of India, which was never there, but if there was a constitution, it was the laws of dharma, right? That's what it was. So it is better to have our own civilizational system, our age-old traditional civilizational system. It's always worked better for us. Will we ever get there again? I don't know. I would love to, but I can't say. I'm not a fortune teller. I can give you probabilistic scenarios, and if I give you probabilistic scenarios, then there's a small probability, I would say, maybe 5% or 10% in the next 50 years that this happens. Maybe a 10% probability in the next 50 years that this happens. Maybe I can do probabilistic scenario sketching for this as well. So, yeah. Parth Maheshwari says, economic geopolitical situation of India in 2030. Well, the next 5 years are going to be very difficult and very hard to negotiate. So much is going to change. A lot will change. Apparently, there's an invasion of Taiwan happening in 2027. Before that, we could have the end of Pakistan potentially. Who knows? Maybe it won't happen because China steps in. And then maybe we could face a two-front war situation. We have no idea what's going to happen. Next 5 years are going to be very turbulent, very chaotic. But let's give a most likely scenario, an optimistic scenario. If we play the game right, then we will obviously be the third largest economy in the world. And it's possible that if we play the game right, then in 2030 you may not have Pakistan. You may have multiple independent nations over there, if we play the game right. And that would be advantage India if that happens. So hopefully that's where we are in 2030. But can't say for sure, obviously. Vamshi Kalam says, when should we get monarchy? Before become number one in GDP? When should we get monarchy? I would love to have Chandragupta Maurya as our emperor today, or Kanishka as our emperor today, or maybe Rajendra Chola, or maybe the great Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, or maybe Kumaragupta or Skandagupta. I would love to have it today, but when should we have it? We should have it today. Those people had such high standards compared to what we have today. But when could we have it? Absolutely no way of saying. Maybe a 10% probability, like I said, in the next 50 years. And possibly in 50 years, we could become number one in GDP, possibly. If the gods and the stars align with us. Philosophic Shadow says, could you suggest some relevant career options for a second year BCom student considering today's time? Bachelor of Commerce. What do you do as a Bachelor of Commerce? What are you learning? I have no idea about BCom. I mean, I do have a broad understanding. I think if you're in commerce, then you should go into business or entrepreneurship. Of course, that's always high risk. Business is always high risk. Entrepreneurship is always high risk. If you want a low risk option, you go and get a job, and that's a steady income, and you spend a certain time. Beyond that, I don't know what to say, because BCom means for me it's only business. So you go into the business sector, as far as I understand. But if you want to do well in life, and maybe if you have the appetite for taking risks, then you should start some kind of business, get some kind of investment, or maybe if family helps, and you can have family invest something. So yeah, without knowing you personally, I really don't know what to say, what advice to give you. It's only when I know you personally, or at least speak to you for 5 minutes face to face and get some kind of orientation and some kind of perspective, that I could give you some actual advice. Without that, I can just give very general advice, which may actually not help you very much. Airs Manticore says, yes, I have discussed this just a while ago. Russia is offering the Su-57E export variant with full source code access and transfer of technology. Is this believable? But as far as I know, it is dual engine, not single engine. Oh, thank the gods it's dual engine. I prefer a dual engine aircraft. It's more powerful. It's more reliable. Why would you want a single engine aircraft? Why? Of course, you have it can play a certain role, like the Tejas. It's a single engine aircraft. It's with short legs. It's an interceptor. It's not for long range operations. The Sukhoi 57E is a different kind of beast. It's a fifth generation fighter plane with some stealth characteristics, and it's definitely a high quality fighter plane. Um, so if you get full source code access, if you get transfer of technology, and if you get to build it in India, and if you get to integrate all your indigenous defense systems into it, and if it also has interoperability with the Sukhoi 30 that we already use, which means that we could use, you know, already existing infrastructure for it, then what else do you want? I think there's a high possibility that by the end of the year, after assessing the offer and making some amendments to it, there's a high possibility, about 80% in my opinion, that by the end of this year we'll go ahead with this. So I look forward to it happening. I'll be very happy if it happens. Nanda Kishore says, how to consolidate power as a leader? Eliminate all potential challengers. That's it. Malik Syed says, chemical engineering versus robotics AI, what's the best for future? Chemical engineering versus robotics AI. I think robotics has a great future. I think robotics integrated with AI has an even better future. Chemical engineering could be all automated. It will be automated to a very large extent. You have catalytic converters and chemical reactors and whatever the processes that I forget right now. It's been a long time since I studied chemistry. But all of that can be automated. All of it. And automatons will do a much better job than humans of running the processes and supervising and monitoring everything and ensuring the right kind of results. I think robotics and AI, or robotics merged with AI, has the best potential future. So yeah, if you have the choice of taking one or the either, I would go with robotics and AI. If I was in a position, if I had these two choices, I would, without thinking, go for robotics and AI. First of all, it's a really interesting field, and secondly, it has huge potential. Rohan Suneja says the IAF chief is very angry with HAL. Is he right? To a large extent, he is right. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited needs to raise its standards. If the IAF chief is upset, if he's angry, look, you got to take him seriously. The guy knows what he's talking about. So yeah, to a very large extent, I'm pretty sure that he's quite right. A Phoenix Music says, can you give a brief on your physics research topic? Found out that your old research base was just behind my hostel. Small world. My old research base, which one? I've had multiple research bases. My physics research topic was dark matter. The role that primordial black holes could potentially play as a dark matter candidate. Not primordial black holes as such, but quantum mechanical bound states of microscopic primordial black holes that we call holiums. And these could potentially be stable. And if they did exist, or they did form in the very early universe, and there are multiple scenarios that show that there could have been an overproduction of microscopic primordial black holes in the very early universe during the pre-inflation phase, as well as during reheating, recombination, etc. So in such scenarios, there's a possibility that primordial black holes could have formed quantum mechanical bound states which could be stable, and in that case they could still exist today, and they could form a significant component of the cold dark matter that we are hunting for. So that was my research topic. Aryan Tyagi says, Commerce Secretary Howard Luthry said that the US did not like what India did. Not that India crossed the red line or misunderstood and asked. Okay, I'm not sure what he didn't like. Once again, I haven't read that particular piece of news. So their Commerce Secretary said that they did not like what India did. What did we do? Is the question. Did we negotiate too hard? There's this negotiation that's going on between India and the US about the trade and tariff deal, right? So did they not like the style of negotiation? Did we not back down? Did we not give in to their maximalist demands? What exactly is it that they did not like? So I'm not sure what it is. If you know what it is that they did not like, then maybe I can throw more light on it. Let me just, because since we're discussing, maybe I'll do a very quick Google search and see what it is. Howard Luthry, Howard Luthry, India. What is it? Howard Luthra, Lutnick, Lutnick, Lutnick. What is it? Lutnick. U.S. trade deal, blah blah, etc. Not too distant future. India getting, and the US can buy buying Russian arms, or they can take a hike if they have a problem. Okay, maybe India is buying Russian weapons, that's why they're not unhappy. Well, they can take a hike. We are not a US vassal. We're not a puppet. We are an autonomous, sovereign nation. If they have a problem, well, they can take the problem and keep it where it belongs with them. That's all I can say. Kavya says, was the Indian judiciary and Indian constitution designed to be against the interests of Bharat and Hindus? Well, I don't know about the judiciary. So, but the constitution is entirely un-Indian, un-Bharatiya. Look, the constitution ideally should be the soul of a nation. Now, for a nation like Bharat, what is its soul? It is Bharatiyata. It is the Bharatiya Sanskriti, the civilization and culture of Bharat, which means that India's constitution should be founded, should be grounded in Indian culture, Indian values, in Indian morality, and Indian ethics. Now, if you examine the Indian constitution, it's entirely Western and Abrahamic in nature. And it is said by experts who find out. It is said by experts that there are certain sections of the constitution that are blatantly anti-Indian culture, anti-Indian civilization. So it looks like the constitution for sure was designed against the interests of Bharat and Hindus. And in case you all are not aware, the Indian constitution was imposed undemocratically on India. On the first page they write, "We the people of India," or something like that, right? My question is, once the constitution was drafted, why was it not ratified by the people of India? Why were the people of India not given the chance to ratify it? If it has not been ratified by the people of India, it means it has been imposed undemocratically. What does it mean to be ratified? What does it mean? It means that the people are given the option to decide, do you accept this constitution or do you reject it? Which means there has to be a referendum. Now you will say, according to the Indian constitution, there is no referendum. But before the constitution was applied on India, there was no constitution. So there could have been a referendum, but there was no referendum. See, when the US constitution was written, it was put to a vote. So who was able to vote? Wealthy land-owning white men were allowed to vote, which were the people that mattered in the US in those days. So it was not entirely democratic. It was highly undemocratic, but from their perspective, it was very democratic because there was a vote. So the US constitution was accepted by those who were allowed to vote. In India, there was no vote. So it is an undemocratically imposed constitution. Find me a single constitutional expert who can disagree with me. Ayers Manticore says, is the next human evolution going to involve genetic engineering and a focus of AI cybernetics? Is this a deviation from centuries of natural evolution? Is it okay? Well, it's definitely unnatural. So first of all, is the next human evolution going to involve genetic engineering and focus on AI and cybernetics? I think yes. Genetic engineering is already kind of happening. There is something called CRISPR. That is kind of yesterday's news. There's going to be more means of editing genes, of doing gene therapy and so on and so forth to improve your genetic makeup. Such technologies are already there. So there is that already. AI, cybernetics, you have things like Neuralink, chip implants, there are chips that are implanted into your brain tissue, and that those can give you enhanced cognitive capabilities, enhanced perception, and much more. So they could turn you into a superhuman being, super person, superman, superwoman. That's cybernetic technology, obviously. So, excuse me. So all that is already kind of on the table right now. All those options are on the table. Next 10 years, there are going to be leaps and bounds that will be taken in this direction. Is this This is a deviation from centuries, for not centuries, millions of years of natural evolution. There is no evolution over 10 centuries, 20 centuries. Evolution is the effects of evolution are only visible over time spans of hundreds of thousands of years at minimum. So this is a deviation from millions of years, probably billions of years of natural evolution. Is it okay? Well, who decides it's okay or not? If you can do it, you will do it. So um, there's no okay or not okay. It's like geopolitics. There's no right or wrong in geopolitics. Those who are powerful will achieve their means, their ends by whatever means they need to. So yeah, it's there. Nanda Kizor says Cameroonians are speaking Tamil Indian language in India. Well, I would congratulate our great friends in Cameroon that they are learning an Indian language. Outstanding. Sergeant Skyland says, will NVIDIA manufacturing come to India? Some of it may come to India, but not the high-end chips. Absolutely not. Why would they bring it to India? Right? Grok says, will India make a tactical hydrogen bomb like China? Look, what you call a hydrogen bomb is better known as a thermonuclear bomb. It's a two-stage or three-stage device. There's an initial chemical explosion, essentially, that triggers a primary fission reaction. And that fission reaction implodes within to cause a secondary fusion reaction that releases way more energy than a fission reaction can. So the fission reaction itself is a nuclear atomic bomb, but then it gives rise to a fusion reaction, and that's the thermonuclear part of it. So a thermonuclear bomb, which is colloquially called a hydrogen bomb, is not a tactical weapon. It's a weapon with a huge amount of energy that is released. A tactical bomb is a small scale nuclear weapon, which is almost always a fission device, and its output is a yield of in the kiloton range. So the Hiroshima Nagasaki events, those horrible nuclear tests on human beings, they had an output of, I don't know, between 17 to 18 to 20 kilotons, roughly in that range, kilotons of TNT equivalent. Fusion bombs, thermonuclear fission fusion bombs or hydrogen bombs, they typically have an output that is multiples of that, like 10 times that or something. So it probably begins around 70, 80 kilotons, maybe 100 kilotons, and it will go into the megaton range. And the most powerful one was 50 megatons, the Tsar Bomba. So will India make it? India already has thermonuclear bomb capabilities. Yeah. Ichinose Senpai says Russia's economy is 1/10 China's, yet it's the second most powerful nation. You said it's largely due to its nukes. What steps could China take to close this power gap with Russia, and how long would it take? See, a hard power score has multiple components. And if you assign a certain amount of weight to nuclear weapons, then nuclear weapons will tip the balance in a certain direction. So the way I have calculated it, Russia's enormous nuclear arsenal gives it the second rank. Now, if you choose to calculate it differently, it could make China number two. It's entirely up to you. From my perspective, nuclear weapons are a significant factor in hard power. So, based on the way I have chosen to create the formula, the equation, not the equation, the formula for hard power, it's an equation. So, based on that, Russia is number two, largely due to its enormous nuclear arsenal. What steps should China take to close this power gap? Increase the size of your nuclear arsenal. There's nothing else. That's it. How long would it take? It could take them maybe 10 years, depending on how much fissile material they have access to. I'm sure they have access to uranium. I think one of the reasons why they hold on to Aksai Chin is because there is uranium there. So if they have access to sufficient uranium, they could close the gap in maybe 10 years, 20 years. Depends, right? So there you have it. SEK 100, SEK says, do you believe in a tripolar world? China and Russia would not let a third power rise. China and the US would not let a third power rise, which will cause instability in the world. I read Tripolar Instability from Robert S. Luthwak. Okay. Uh, Love from SE. You mean South Korea, I suppose? Okay. Singapore? Not sure. Do I believe in a tripolar world? I believe in a multipolar world. I believe in any kind of world that's possible. Um, it's obviously true that the Chinese and the US will see eye to eye on one thing and one thing only, that no third power should rise to a level that's comparable to the two of them. Right? They will agree on that. And that's why they both agree that Pakistan needs to continue to exist. And they both are okay with, and they both want India to not destroy Pakistan. So they both would very much not want India to rise beyond certain limits, right? And from their perspective, it will cause instability. Or maybe it will cause stability. It will make the world more stable if there are three powers. The most stable world is a unipolar world, but it's a horrible world. The world is beautiful when you have so much diversity in nations and the different kinds of power that you have. Um, but from the largest powers perspective, more powers rising means more instability. Um, so that's how it is. Do I believe in it? Look, it's possible that it exists, that it can exist, and it would be good actually for India to rise. It would be good for the world. So maybe a tripolar world will be better for the world actually, if there are three great powers instead of just two. And you may have a four polar world actually, tripolar, quadripolar world. If Russia also becomes you know an economic power in addition to being a military and nuclear power. Vamshi says, will the US allow us to become a monarchy now? Is it too risky? The US doesn't want anything to change in India. And if there's a chance of India becoming a monarchy, it's a very, very, very unlikely far out scenario. But if there's a chance that happens, then maybe the Americans will try to play some regime change kind of operation. Maybe try and interfere within India. And they have lots of assets within India. I assure you of that. So they will not allow it. They would ideally not want to allow anything within India to change. They want India to be in a steady state system. They don't want an expanding India. They want a steady state India. They want a Narlikar Hoyle situation for India. Not the other situation, expanding India. Nanda Kishore says, how did the US get rich in the 19th century? Was it due to Indian wealth funneled to the British Empire? Did the US fund both sides in World War II? Look, the US got wealthy for multiple reasons. Some of the British folks who plundered wealth from India, some of them may have ended up in the US, but you can't attribute America's success to Indian wealth stolen from India. No. The US, what is the true wealth of the US? The land. They have a continent sized nation that was stolen from its original inhabitants, who were genocided out of existence, and those who remained were put in concentration camps, where they still remain, which are called reservations. And they are second class citizens, more or less, even today, unless they have become white and they've become racially diluted. So they became rich because of the enormous land they have, which is full of all kinds of resources. Right? That's number one. And number two, in the Second World War, First World War, Second World War, they were insulated from all the problems because of two enormous oceans that flanked them on two sides. And they were able to, you could say, fund both sides to a large extent. Yeah. And the Second World War, that is the event that completely transformed the US economy. The military industrial complex was born in that time. So that's kind of the long and the short of it, a TLDR version of what happened. Robert Cool, thank you very much. First of all, let me try and read this. I'm very slow at Hindi. नमस्ते, यह क्यों कहा जाता है कि हिस्टोरिकली रूस ने कभी वेस्ट पर आक्रमण नहीं किया? समझाइए. मैंने पढ़ा कि रूस ने हंगरी, चेकोस्लोवाकिया, मंचूरिया, जॉर्जिया पर समय समय पर आक्रमण किया. समझा नहीं. Okay, रूस ने Hungary. Is Hungary part of the West? Nobody will call Hungary a Western nation. It's an Eastern European nation. Czechoslovakia, again, Eastern European. Manchuria, it's currently part of China. China's Far East, north of North Korea. Georgia, it's not the West. It's the Caucasus region. Historically, it's kind of Asia. Right. What is the West? The West is Germany, France, Italy, the UK, the Netherlands, and so on. Has Russia ever attacked those nations? Of course, Russia was an empire. It's okay for a nation to be an empire. The Mongols were an empire. We used to be an empire. As an empire, you do certain things. Russia has expanded eastwards. It had expanded all the way to Alaska before the British even reached that place. So yeah, they brought Hungary into their sphere of influence. Hungary was a satellite state, a vassal state of Russia. So was Czechoslovakia. So was Poland. So was Hungary, and so were many other nations. And they did the regime change operations. They did sometimes invade some of them, and so on. You do these things as an empire, as a superpower. When the US does it, nobody raises an eyebrow. But when Russia does something, big deal. Has Russia ever invaded Germany? Has Russia ever invaded Italy? Has Russia ever invaded France? Has Russia ever? So the Western European nations never been invaded by Russia. Manchuria is not the West, right? Manchuria is not the West. And so what happened in Manchuria, the Russian expansion in the region, that happened over the last, I don't know, 3 centuries or so. Old history. If you bring out old history, all kinds of things come out of that, राइट सो यह कहा जाता है कि हिस्टोरिकली रूस ने कभी वेस्ट पर आक्रमण नहीं किया, ये सत्य है. Okay. Okay. Ankita says, Mr. Trump's tariff war, beneficial or harmful for the US economy in the long run? I think it could end up being harmful. Trade and tariff war. I mean, I can understand him trying to impose tariffs on China. Makes sense from his perspective, from the US perspective. I can understand him trying to bully India on tariffs. We are not an ally or a vassal of the US, so it's okay for them to bully us. He is bullying the EU nations who are his vassals. Why would you do that? You have a good existing relationship and you own the US dollar. So it doesn't matter what the European nations do. They're anyway trading in the US dollar mostly. They have the euro, which is again a vassal of the US dollar. So I'm not sure what's the objective of bullying the EU nations or the NATO nations. It's going to create dissent. It's going to create this desire to break free of the US, which will not work, of course, but it will cause frictions and all kinds of unnecessary troubles. I think overall, in the long run, it's harmful for the US economy. Unless he believes that, there's no long-term future for Europe, which the Americans seem to be kind of engineering. So it's fine to disengage from China, from Russia, and so on. And this disengagement is happening as we speak, and it's a US engineered disengagement. This bipolarization of the world that we are seeing right now. But why do it to your allies in Europe and so on? I think it could be harmful to the US economy in the long run, unless they believe that at the end of the day, in a few years, all nations are going to be isolated and insulated from each other, and that's kind of a siege mentality kind of approach. I think in the long run, if this persists, it's going to be harmful to the US economy in the long run. Ayers Manticore says, is the US trying to delay FE404 engines for Tejas? They're not trying to delay it. They are delaying it. It's not a try. It's happening. It's already delayed, significantly delayed. We have paid for it. We have paid good money for it, and they are dragging their feet over it. So they are already doing it. They're not trying it. They are actively delaying the engines. Bhavik Vadera says, what do you think Alberta's future will be if it separates from Canada? I see this sentiment of separation all around me now. Will the US step in to annex Alberta if that happens? I can understand Quebec wanting to separate from Canada because they are culturally, linguistically separate. Ethnically, also historically, they are French. The rest of Canada is of mainly British origin. Mainly, I'm saying, and Quebec has come close to seceding from Canada at least a couple of times. But Alberta, why would Alberta want to secede from Canada? But you are there apparently on the ground, and you see the sentiment all around you. What it indicates is that Canada. The truth is, Canada is an artificial nation. It's a nation that's that has been created out of stolen land, out of the genocide of the natives, and whoever survived has been relegated to second class citizen status. And what is it that binds a nation together? What, when it comes to India, it's our culture and civilization that binds us together. No matter what language we speak, no matter what part of India we live in, we still have this common civilizational thread, and we understand each other. And we are part of, when we all have the same ancestry going back tens of thousands of years. So that binds us together. When it comes to Canada, what binds the people of Canada together? Is there some kind of shared culture or something? There's nothing of the sort. So it makes sense for this sentiment to be there. It means that there is no long-term future for this artificial nation. In 100 years, we may not have any Canada anymore. Maybe in 10 years, you may not have it if Trump decides to make a move on Canada. So your hypothetical question is that if Alberta secedes from Canada, what will happen? Will the US step in to annex Alberta? I see no reason why they would not. I mean, the US could step in and annex the whole of Canada tomorrow, and there's nothing Canada can do about it. So yeah, it's possible if Alberta secedes from Canada, that the Americans will step in and annex Alberta, and maybe the Albertans will actually be happy for a change about that if it happens. Yeah. Rahul Lakshmanan says, "Can you explain Wolfram's hypergraphs? Could it potentially be a theory of everything?" I have never studied that stuff. I don't know what it is. Yeah, Mr. Wolfram, he's a super intelligent guy, and he has created one of the best scientific softwares of all time, Mathematica, super powerful software, and it takes a lot of time to learn how to use it. Super powerful software, brilliant guy, no question about it. And I have not delved into what these hypergraphs are. And apparently it looks like he claims that it is a theory of everything which explains everything, but I haven't really looked into it thus far, so can't say anything beyond that. Raj Kanakattu says, why not explore Sanskrit for secure defense coding? Well, look, Sanskrit is not a programming language. It's way too complex for that. Doesn't make sense. Secure defense coding. Security in defense comes not from the language that you use for coding. Security comes from the measures you take to prevent others from breaking into your systems. Okay, so it's your security measures to insulate your sensitive and critical systems from outside threats that matter, which could involve air gapping, which could involve all kinds of other measures. It has absolutely nothing to do with the programming language. Of course, you need to have all the best practices that are adopted in coding. As long as you do it, it's fine. Whether you code in Python or C or C# or whatever you want. Grok says China made non-nuclear hydrogen bomb made of magnesium. A non-nuclear hydrogen bomb made of magnesium. If it is made of magnesium, then how is it a hydrogen bomb? Because magnesium is a metallic element and hydrogen is the lightest element. These are totally different elements here. Maybe there's some magnesium component to it. I'm not aware of it. Okay, a non-nuclear hydrogen bomb, which means it's a bomb that has hydrogen as one of the components, which is possibly the explosive component. I'm not sure. Vijay Joshi says, what's the controversy with 905 of Quran? I have never read the Quran. I am not familiar with it at all. So I am not the right person to ask this question. Sorry. I have absolutely no idea about it. Jagan says, after India deep penetration strikes against inside Pakistan, why the US suddenly turn against India? Today also Trump's advisor is openly threatening to cut off ties with Russia, breaks de-dollarization, etc. Look, Pakistan is very important for the US. They don't want India to rise, which means they need a nation like Pakistan, East Pakistan, West Pakistan, to keep India unstable, to keep India off balance. If Pakistan is destroyed, then that enormous leverage they've cultivated over decades is gone. It evaporates. So the Americans never expected that India will strike so hard against Pakistan and hit 11 air bases in 20 minutes and strike hundreds of kilometers deep within Pakistan, hit Pakistan's secure, hardened nuclear warhead storage sites and so on. I think the Americans, when they realized what India was doing, they probably had a panic attack that we're going to lose our asset, Pakistan. It looked like we could be in POK in 24 to 48 hours, right? Right? It looked like that because Pakistan was vulnerable. It was rendered helpless and defenseless by the strikes. We wiped out many of the radar systems. We wiped out their air defense systems. We destroyed their many of their military installations, their air bases. We cratered the runways, which means their fighter planes could not take off. They were sitting ducks. They had been rendered helpless by India. That's why Americans panicked. Otherwise, they would have lost their valuable strategic asset. That's why they did this. Right now, Trump's advisor is threatening to cut off ties with Russia. Breaks. Okay, they issue threats all the time. They are the most powerful nation in the world. They can issue threats, and they can actually, you know, implement the threats if they want. So you have to take them seriously. Suyash Singh, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Saiteja says we should club important services like ISRO, DRDO, IAS, and give facilities, high packages, etc. Do you think such salary in government cause brain drain, corruption? One of the best ways to reverse the brain drain, to address the issue of the brain drain, is to give high salaries to people. What's a salary? It's the value you ascribe to a person. If you pay a person more, it means you value the person more. More than any honors, more than any kind words, a person values the salary they are given, right? So if we can give salaries comparable to what you would get in NASA or in SpaceX or in the US government, then who will go? Nobody will go if you treat people like with the value that they deserve. So I think, yeah, it makes sense. But then the question is, can India afford to give such high salaries to so many people and so on? So yeah, it makes sense to do that, actually. Pranav, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your kind words and your contribution. Thank you so much, sir. Ritik Pawar says, if buying F-35 gives access to Americans, isn't IAF already doing so with Chinook, Apache, MQ-9, etc., all under the same IAF umbrella, giving access? Yeah, it does. It does mean that. And we should ensure it doesn't go further than this. So we have the Apache, but we also have the LCH helicopter, which is superior to the Apache in our conditions. The Apache can't take off from Leh. It can't fight a battle. It cannot operate at the altitudes that we have in the Leh region, in the Indo-Tibet undemarcated border region. So we have a superior helicopter. So whatever Apaches we have bought, it's enough. We can use them against Pakistan potentially if the Americans don't use the kill switch. The MQ-9s, again, we have to develop our indigenous systems. We cannot keep on buying foreign equipment. That too from a nation that has a proven track record of playing these games, of using kill switches and denying full use of military equipment to their allies. So we cannot afford to buy the F-35. It will be a disaster. Aditya sir, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Air Spanticor says China doesn't want its single men to marry foreign brides, especially from Bangladesh and Pakistan. Apparently, there's an agency in both countries that market the Chinese men as pure Muslims. WTF? Okay, I'm not aware of these things. China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, foreign brides. So China has this issue, right? They have this declining population, but I don't think any number of foreign brides will solve that problem. And if you bring in foreign brides from these countries, these radicalized countries, it will be a bigger problem for China. So it makes sense that China doesn't want its single men to marry these foreign brides. And there's an agency in Pakistan and in Bangladesh that markets Chinese men as pure Muslims. What on earth? Yeah, a very, very interesting piece of news here. Time boxing, says Suyash Singh, versus time blocking. More efficient method. Time blocking, time boxing. I'm aware of time blocking. I think it's a pretty good method. Not sure about time boxing. So my vote will go for time blocking. Spartan Bagwa says, is it okay for men to do a basic skincare routine, style their hair while being physically strong and capable? I feel Indian guys have a lot of potential. I think it is perfectly okay for you to be concerned about your appearance and to want to have a better appearance. Yes, you should have a skincare routine. Don't waste your entire day looking after your skin and all, but do take care of your skin. Basic skincare routine, absolutely. Once a day, twice a day. If you, what's wrong with styling your hair? Absolutely style your hair and be physically strong, capable, all of that. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. It is perfectly 100% okay. Not just okay, it is recommended that men should do this. Warrior says, does the world think India won? Who is being manipulated more? By my government, India or Pakistan? Why do Pakistanis say they won? Why so much sudden hate against India? The more India rises, the more India will get hate. We are the world's most ancient civilization. We are the only remaining polytheistic civilization. The whole world is essentially Abrahamic and monotheistic. The whole world is ruled by them, and they are deeply unhappy that we still exist when everything else has fallen. The Western monotheists, they had polytheistic cultures. Their culture was an offshoot of ours, and it's been smashed out of existence. But we are still standing. How dare we still stand? That's why there is hate against India. And they occupied us for 250 years, the British, and they drained everything of value out of India. And yet here we still are. We are again on our feet. We are again rising. How dare we rise? How dare we? And they are actually afraid because they know what we are capable of. For the majority of history, we were the largest economy. So that's why there is this outpouring of hatred against us on social media and so on. Does the world think India? What, I don't care what the world thinks, but of course uh, we should put forth our truth to the world that we did win, we did hammer Pakistan, we rendered them completely defenseless and helpless. Who is being manipulated more by government, India or Pakistan? Why do Pakistanis say they won? Because Pakistanis love to lie. That's why. Sachin says, admire. Thank you very much. My brutally honest opinion of, did Modi chicken out from finishing of Pakistan under US-China pressure? It's not called chickening out. When the world's most powerful nation decides, tells you that we will destroy you unless you back off, you have to back off. It's not called chickening out. If Mr. Modi had not backed off, then the Americans would have destroyed India's economy through a variety of means. They are perfectly capable of turning India into Venezuela or Iran or North Korea in a matter of days or weeks through purely economic means. Mr. Modi did the right thing. When the Americans issue a threat, you have to take it seriously. You have to back up. You have to back down. So I don't think Mr. Modi is chickened out. He has done the right thing for the country. It's very disappointing. Very disappointing that we had to stop the war at the 3-day stage. Very disappointing. It is not Mr. Modi's fault. It is Trump's fault. And if this was not done, they would have destroyed us. Please understand how powerful the US is. Sitting here, we don't realize how powerful the US is because the US hides its means. They are tremendously powerful nation. Ritvik says, does India have the infrastructure to absorb Russian Su-57 technology and mass produce it? I have watched AIM say that we probably do or don't. I don't know what anybody has said. We have absorbed the Russian Sukhoi 30 technology. So why can't we do the same thing with the Sukhoi 57? Especially when there is significant overlap and interoperability. I think India will be able to take the Su-57 technology, the transfer of technology, and mass produce the aircraft. I am very confident we'll be able to do it. So yeah, that's my answer. What are the challenges? Some of the things may have changed. We know how to handle the Sukhoi 30. This new aircraft is different. It's a Sukhoi aircraft, so there'll be lots of similarities in certain basic things, but many of the weapon systems will be different, and we'll have to integrate our weapon systems, our radars, our missiles, etc., with the Sukhoi 57, which may be a challenge. We have very dangerous air-to-air missiles like the Astra beyond visual range, air-to-air missile and various other harm missiles, anti-radiation missiles, and so on and so forth. How to integrate our missiles with this system is going to be, obviously, it's going to need some work, but I think we will be very much able to handle this matter and mass produce this aircraft. Dr. Ritvik Patnaik says, why do a certain community in Bollywood support Palestine, whereas we have nothing to gain from them? Is it to disturb the Israel-India relationship? Look, I don't know. I don't get into religious issues, okay? I don't talk about internal political and religious matters of India. Uh, I agree that we have nothing to gain from Palestine, from supporting Palestine, and so on. So, yeah, whatever it is. Look, Bollywood, we have to stop idolizing Bollywood. That's what I would say. You cannot waste your time idolizing entertainers. They're the last people you should idolize. Sachin says, throughout Operation Sindoor, we were trying to claim the high moral ground in process lost precious jets in the opening salvo by not neutralizing radars. Please understand, during a military operation, you're not trying to claim high moral ground. Okay, you have some assumptions, you have some intelligence, you have some data. Based on that, you do certain things. Some things work, some things don't work. Then you adapt your tactics, and then you either succeed or fail. I don't know how many jets we lost, whether it's 5, whether it's 50, whether it's 0. I don't know what the chief of defense staff or whatever whatever was said. I'm not sure what was said. I did not understand what was being said. So I'm not even sure even today if we have actually lost jets. But let's say we lost 2 jets, hypothetically. So what? It's a goddamned war. You're gonna lose stuff in war. Every day on the border, there's firing from Pakistan, is firing from India. We lose soldiers on a routine basis. Every few days, there's a casualty or 2. Do we cry about that? This is warfare. This is a serious matter. You're going to lose equipment. Why are Indians constantly crying about this? Only if nobody dies, only if not a single piece of equipment is damaged, then only we have won. That's not how it works. And how do you know that we have not neutralized? We did not start neutralizing radars on day 1. How do you know that? So let's not make assumptions, and let's not be such defeatist people. I'm okay with losing fighter jets. The Americans fighting the Houthis lost 2 F-18 fighter planes. Fighting the Houthis, a rebel force. Okay, McLevin says, why does India lack aesthetics? Because India is poor. Poverty is unaesthetic. You understand? What needs to happen is India needs to become a higher GDP per capita nation. Then we will be able to spend time on beautifying ourselves and spend money on beautifying ourselves. Right now, aesthetics are a luxury most Indians can't afford, and the government is not interested in. The government is in the bureaucrats who are in charge of everything. So even today, if you go to these cities that were colonized by the British, even today you will find that the colonial architecture is aesthetically superior to anything we built after 1947, because the people in charge of running the country and making decisions had no sense of aesthetics. So 2 problems. One is poverty, and secondly, the people who are in charge of running the country have no sense of aesthetics because we are promoting the wrong people. Sachin says, so if Pakistan is enjoying US-China patronage and we cannot anger the joint duo, then are you predicting that we will be forced to restart water supply via Indus Waters Treaty? I am not predicting that. Nope. Look, they will be, like you say, anger only if we try to destroy Pakistan. But squeezing Pakistan and applying pressure on Pakistan, they will try and come in the way, but they will not be able to stop us from continuing the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty. I have already said today in the previous live stream that there is a 70% probability that this continues, that the Indus Waters Treaty suspension stays. And there's about a 20% or whatever it was probability that We may conditionally, temporarily lift the suspension only if Pakistan demonstrates with proof that they are taking action in dismantling terrorist infrastructure and eliminating terrorist assets, which is not going to happen. So India is not going to restart water supply, no matter what the Americans say or China says. Please understand nuances. Please understand nuances. We came close to destroying Pakistan. That's why the Americans stepped in and issued some kind of very dire threat. And that's why Mr. Modi had to pause the war. The Indus Waters Treaty was not part of the issue. That suspension happened before. So it's a different topic here. Airs Manticore says Trump Pakistan crypto deal like Biden Ukraine bribes. Kind of like that. Kind of. Airs Manticore says let's set our standards higher. No more chalega BS. I completely agree with you, sir. Completely agree. Thank you for saying that. And please put that in action. Ritvik says, are we getting more episodes with Ram Divedi? He had two shots explaining how Western media tried to shape the narrative against OP Sindoor. We will see about that. We'll see. I am perfectly happy to do episodes with all good analysts and interesting people. We'll see about that. Warrior says, why do people blame Jews for world control 9/11, etc.? Not sure why they do. You know, one of the reasons could possibly be because Israel is America's number one ally. America offers unconditional support to Israel, and maybe that's why people make such claims. I'm not sure why they do that. I am not sure if there is any evidence whatsoever that links the Jewish people to the 9/11 thing, but I don't know. People make all kinds of claims. What can I do about it? Spartan Bhagwa says, should we become an organized religion just to survive the monotheistic onslaught? Why Indians are suffering from clueless pagan syndrome even after 1000 years? You know, when you come under attack, under assault, you change. And our culture has already changed a lot in the past 1000 years. I mean, look at the kind of dress we wear today. Look at the kind of dress ladies wear in India today. And look at how our ancestors were dressed 1000 years ago. It's just one example of change. Look at the kind of linguistic influence we've had, and so on and so forth. Um, so maybe to survive the monotheistic onslaught, we may perhaps have to evolve in certain ways. Maybe you only can fight fire with fire. So maybe we should become more organized. I would not say we should become a completely pyramidal structure, a top down military organization structure, the way the Abrahamic religions are, but there should be more organization, more cohesion, more unity, which can only come with the proper leadership. So at least some of that is needed. And with this will be the last question for today. Sachin says the reason why we are so worried about pressure jets is because we have so few. If China has learned our weakness, it will try to take the rest out in the next round. There's always threats. We live in an environment with significant threats. There are multiple threat scenarios. Our jets are precious. You're right. We have very few. But when you decide to go to war, you're gonna have some loss of equipment. It's part of the deal. It's part of war. I mean, in 1971, how many aircraft did we lose? More than 40. We lost more than 40 fighter aircraft in 1971. But who won the war? We did. In the Kargil war, we lost at least 2 fighter aircraft, if I am not mistaken. The Kargil war. But we won the war. So look, yeah, it's true. We have not sufficient numbers of fighter aircraft. We should have more. So we need to work on that. But it doesn't mean we don't go to war and we don't use the aircraft in war. When you are in a war situation, you use everything at your disposal. And sometimes some things will obviously not go entirely your way. That is part of the game. So once you are in a war situation, you forget about the precious numbers and all. You just use whatever you have at your disposal. Later, you deal with whatever happened in the war. So now we need more fighter planes. I say buy the Su-57. Negotiate with the Russians, see their offer, analyze the offer, scrutinize it in great detail, amend the offer, ask them to amend the offer if required, and find a solution, find a way forward that is acceptable to both nations, acquire the technology, have the entire aircraft manufactured in India, manufacture 100, 200, whatever number makes sense. And that's the way to go forward. Also, at the same time, develop the AMCA, develop the Tejas Mark II, develop whatever else is required. That's the way forward. That's how to go. And there's one more super chat. I'll take this one. Jagan says, why is our government not exploring critical minerals inside India? We are a big country. And why are we lacking to crack crystal braid technology for fighter jets? What about our metallurgy engineering? We have very poor engineering departments in much of the country, not up to world standards. Okay, that's the truth. Metallurgy, I mean, we have good basic metallurgy, but we're talking about cutting edge, bleeding edge metallurgy over here. So that's why we are behind in the single crystal blade fighter, jet turbine blade technology. It takes time to develop that. Even the developed nations took decades to develop that. Why is the government not exploring critical minerals inside India? We are a huge country. We should. I think there needs to be more exploration, more prospecting. I think if we look properly, we will find lots of oil and gas too. And we may end up becoming a net exporter of energy if we just look carefully. We are a gigantic country. Our onshore, offshore resources of oil and gas, other things will be tremendous. I think we have not done anything thus far to do proper prospecting. So I agree with you. We need to do that. All right, friends, I am at the end of today's episode. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your questions. I really appreciate your participation. And I will see you in tomorrow's live stream. So until then, take care. Keep asking the questions and keep learning and keep raising your standards. Good day, good night, wherever you are. I'll see you very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.